Tonight, 3 men arrested after a bomb scare in Glasgow. The city's bus station has been evacuated all afternoon. Police are believed to have recovered offensive weapons.
Put my stuff on the bus and nipped to the loo, and then I came back and this is all kicking off, so I can't go anywhere because my luggage is on the bus. I can't go to family now because my stuff's already on the bus.
STV News understands the incident is not currently being treated as terrorism. We're live with the latest. Also making the headlines, failing the most vulnerable. People with learning disabilities aren't getting annual health checks, a key post-pandemic pledge. Can Grangemouth's jobs be saved? Unions call for the refinery's closure to be put on hold, but the Scottish Secretary says it's too late.
Hello, my wee man.
A granny drops in from down under to surprise her grandson, and yes, he is the Scotland captain. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. A developing story as we come on air, with parts of Glasgow's city centre under lockdown tonight as police and the Royal Navy's bomb squad deal with an ongoing incident at Buchanan bus station. 3 men have been arrested. A suspicious item was found at the bus station earlier this afternoon and passengers and staff evacuated. With the very latest from the scene, our reporter Vanessa Taff is there for us tonight. Vanessa, what's happening?
Well, there's still a heavy emergency services presence here tonight at Buchanan bus station. Just over my shoulder, the bomb squad are here. Now, they've been here since this afternoon, and the police are about to bring in another command unit, which we might see in a moment. Now, that's all because there was a suspicious item found here as well. We know that 3 men have been arrested in connection with what the police say they found were offensive weapons, and they've yet to interview those men. Now, the item which is at the heart of all this was found just after 1 p.m. at the bus station this afternoon. Of course, tonight in Glasgow it's absolutely bitterly cold, and hundreds of people have been on the streets trying to figure out just how they're going to get home tonight.
We're actually heading home to Perth. We've booked a bus for Perth to get back to where we stay, because we've got commitments tonight, but I don't think we're going to manage to get them now.
I put my stuff on the bus and nipped to the loo, and then I came back and this is all kicking off, so I can't go anywhere because my luggage is on the bus. I can't go to family now because my stuff's already on the bus.
We all work in Greg's, but it's shut off now.
I'm guessing your bosses know you're standing on the other side of the cordon?
They're also standing in the cold, so it's okay.
We're in the middle of a lecture and we all got an email with an emergency email saying that we needed to evacuate the building.
So now your car's on the other side of the cordon?
Yeah. We're just waiting to see and worrying about how much we need to pay for parking now.
And Vanessa, has there been any other disruption?
Yes, well, most of the streets around the area here have been closed to pedestrians. There's been major traffic disruption around the city centre as well. The M8 Slip Road has also been closed. That's out of action tonight too, so just definitely check if you're heading anywhere in the city centre tonight. Of course, it's rush hour, and as I say, there are some buses going, but those are limited, and SPT are saying, and all the bus operators, just to check, but lots of travel disruption for people coming here tonight trying to get home. Now, we know that this isn't being treated as a terrorist incident, but people are being told to avoid the area.
Vanessa at Buchanan bus station with that developing story. Thank you. People with learning disabilities have told STV News they're being failed by the Scottish Government after new data shows a key post-pandemic pledge to offer them annual health checks has failed in every single health board. The data obtained by Scottish Labour via a Freedom of Information request found no health board has met the target. And in NHS Lanarkshire, not a single patient has received the promised health check, despite £4 million being handed over to deliver them. Our political reporter Laura Alderman has this exclusive report.
Like most of us, Heather finds it difficult to get an appointment with her GP. But as she has learning disabilities, she's supposed to have been offered an annual NHS health check, a promise made by the Scottish Government after COVID to reduce health inequalities. But more than 2 years on from that pledge, Heather is still waiting.
I've got a couple of health issues and I want a longer appointment so I can talk to them about it. And it feels like the government are failing us for the learning disabilities. They're just failing them. Yeah. We're getting promise after promise after promise, and it's just been broken every time. It's been, a year or two it's been offered, and still not. Nobody I know it's had one, to be honest.
New data obtained by Scottish Labour via a Freedom of Information request found the vast majority of Scots with learning disabilities have not been offered a health check since the policy was announced. Not a single health board has met the target, despite being given £2 million a year to deliver it. NHS Fife performed best, offering the check to 46% of those eligible. In NHS Lothian, it was only 17%, and in Glasgow, just over 10%. But in NHS Lanarkshire, no checks have been carried out, despite nearly 2,500 people being eligible.
And given some of the serious health complexities and challenges that people who have a learning disability experience, it is both shocking and seriously worrying, and it's just not good enough. And the government have to explain why the promise that was made by Kevin Stewart and by Marie Todd has not been honoured.
The Scottish Government says it's aware health boards have faced challenges in delivering health checks within the projected timescale and are doing so on a phased basis, adding it's working closely with all boards to deliver these health checks across Scotland. But for Heather and the thousands of Scots with learning disabilities who are missing out on these health checks, the consequences can be life-threatening. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
The Unite Union is calling for the closure of Grangemouth to be put on pause to explore ways to save jobs. Petro Ineos plans to shut this refinery next summer and says it's losing £385,000 a day. Giving evidence to Holyrood's Economy Committee today, Unite disputed those figures and called on the UK and Scottish governments to step in. Our political editor Colin Mackay was watching. So Colin, what's their case?
Well, Unite, the union, doesn't accept the figures on losses from Petro Ineos. They told MSPs last week that they stood to lose about £100 million this year. Today, Unite Scottish Secretary Derek Thompson told MSPs that that simply wasn't the full picture. He reckons that the plant has been making a profit for most years, but the problem this year is that the hydrocracker for making jet fuel and diesel hasn't been working. The companies say it's broken. He says it can be fixed. He wants the closure plans paused. He wants the UK government to step in and save it for a few years so that it can be turned from an oil refinery into a biofuel plant producing sustainable aviation fuel and, crucially, saving jobs.
Do we shut Grangemouth or do we repurpose it to become a refinery that will deliver sustainable air fuel, deliver jobs? A loss to the economy of £2 billion over 5 years before a new SAF plant is built, or potentially built, could be longer under the Project Willow scheme. Repurposing here of around between half a million and £1 billion, to me, makes economic sense because you then start generating money into the economy.
So according to the union, it would be cheaper in the long run to keep Grangemouth refinery going than to take a massive hit on the country's economy. He's also warning of a fuel security risk of losing Scotland's only oil refinery and instead having to import petrol, diesel and aviation fuel through a company partly owned by the Chinese state. But at Westminster today, the Scottish Secretary said it's already too late to save Grangemouth.
The Grangemouth site has a really bright future. Of course, the refinery is devastating. It's something that we didn't want to happen, but has happened. I wish we had more time in government to maybe try and do something about that, but the horse had bolted by the time that we took office.
So Colin, what's next?
Well, the Scottish Secretary there suggesting a bright future for Grangemouth, but it sounds pretty gloomy for the 400 workers directly who will lose their jobs when the refinery closes, and around 2,000 more contractors and other people working around the site. Now, Unite has written to Ed Miliband, the UK Energy Secretary, demanding immediate action. Today, the Scottish Parliament Committee has also called on him to come here to give evidence on this. Unite say that this is the first test of a just transition, and it looks like Scotland is failing. They say that this is a choice between writing off Scotland's industrial base or investing in its future.
Colin, at the Scottish Parliament, thank you. MSPs have agreed to debate emergency legislation to ease pressure on overcrowded prisons. The Scottish Government wants to reduce the automatic early release point for inmates serving less than 4 years from 50% to 40%. It would not apply to those convicted of domestic abuse or sexual offences. Well, our political correspondent Ewan Petrie is here. So Ewan, why do ministers feel this is needed?
Well, right now the Scottish Government says there is a critical risk to the safe running of our prisons because the population is too high, and it's projected to get even higher over the coming months. Since September it's been above 8,200. Now the operating capacity is around 8,000, so you can see that poses a serious risk to the health and safety of both inmates and staff. So this bill is aimed at reducing that population over the longer term, and the Justice Secretary says that this is her top concern at the moment. So within the past hour or so, MSPs have voted by 67 to 50 to use emergency legislation to introduce these measures quicker.
We need to accelerate action that will reduce the population in a sustainable way. Progressing this bill under the emergency procedure is necessary because of the urgency of the situation and is proportionate to the scale of the challenge we face. We need to act urgently to ensure prisons continue to function safely and effectively and can accommodate those who pose the greatest risk.
Once these changes are made, they are made. There is no sunset clause. There is no second chance. There is no going back, Presiding Officer. The Minister even highlighted that the bill's financial memorandum states this bill will result in a permanent 5% cut in the average prison population. What if it turns out that that has jeopardised public safety?
So Ewan, what happens now?
Well, today was mainly technical. The debate over the substance of this bill will get underway tomorrow. But under these proposals, they would see prisoners serving sentences of 4 years or less being released after 40% of their sentence. That's down from the current 50%. And as you mentioned earlier, this wouldn't apply to sexual offences or domestic abuse sentences. But if this is passed, it could mean almost 400 prisoners being released early from February next year. Now, in the summer when this last happened, prison governors had a veto over who would be released. But because this is emergency legislation, not an emergency measure, those governors won't have that veto this time around.
Ewan, thank you. 3 men have appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court charged with shooting a man in an attempted murder. Gary Rooney, Darren Beaton and Stephen Preston are accused of acting together and using a firearm to injure a 52-year-old at a shop in Govan's Drummoyne Road a month ago. The trio made no plea and have been remanded in custody. A 26-year-old man from East Kilbride has appeared in court charged with murdering 21-year-old Phoenix Spencer Horn. Her body was found at a flat in the town on Monday. Ewan Methven made no plea and was remanded in custody at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Scotland will be battered by heavy rain and snow this weekend with a fresh weather alert warning of a danger to life. On the west coast, forecasters say heavy snow will be followed by a rapid thaw and subsequent rain. It comes as the north of the country is being worst hit by wintry weather, disrupting travel and closing schools. Drivers are being urged to take extra care with gritting crews out across the area. Gráinne na Gréaghain can tell us more.
Well, as we know, it was another night of freezing temperatures in the north and the northeast. We woke to icy conditions, which led to travel disruptions in many parts. Nearly 100 schools and nurseries were forced to close or had delayed their opening times in Aberdeenshire, Moray, the Highlands and in Shetland. Stagecoach buses also faced disruptions, particularly in rural areas where there were cancellations or delays. And again, at Aberdeen Airport, passengers also faced delays this morning, and this has had a knock-on effect on many passengers and flights for the rest of the day. ScotRail also have issued a statement regarding trains, and they said to check your journey before you travel. Now, we are urged to check on our more elderly and vulnerable neighbours, particularly now as temperatures start to plummet, as a new yellow warning has been issued for snow and ice, not just here in the north of Scotland, but also along the west as well, where we can expect to see between 2 and 5 centimetres of snow across the country. And Sean will be here this evening, a little later in the show, with a full forecast wherever you are.
Glasgow has long been seen as a city with chronic health problems and inequality compared to the rest of the country. And the 2022 census found Glaswegians are more likely to report bad or very bad health than any other parts of Scotland. In a bid to help, a charity is delivering physical activity sessions for families getting children in their early years to keep a healthy weight. Raheem Cham attended a session in Pollock and tells us more.
Joey is a month away from his first birthday.
He's very outgoing, he likes attention.
And Adam is 3.5, already interrupting interviews.
In terms of useful toys, useful activities to do with the children, so it's quite nice to have that experience from other people and advice.
Different personalities, but similar exercise routines. Both moms have joined the Thrive Under 5 program in Pollock, which keeps children active to achieve a healthy weight.
Adam is coping really well. He enjoys the chance to meet new people, get a chance to play with toys that perhaps you don't always have lying around at home yourself. I think that's a great opportunity for him to develop his skills with other children.
Also with like sitting up and even things like tummy time, because Joey used to really hate being on his tummy. He didn't like it at all. But since we've came here and interacted with the different toys and skills, it's really helped him with his tummy time and sitting up, and it's made him more aware.
It is a 2-year project led by health improvement staff from NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, focusing on 3 areas of the city.
And this is part of a whole suite of supports by Thrive Under 5, which is a board-wide child healthy weight programme, which enables a healthy weight in the early years. So we provide lots of support for families. Physical activity is one part, but we also provide family support with financial inclusion, healthy eating.
The project is part of a wider approach to tackle Glasgow's health inequality crisis.
It's really important that babies come along to classes like this at this age. We develop things like tummy time, which obviously develops things like muscle movement, core skills that are really needed for the next developmental milestones like sitting and crawling. Lots of our sensory activities promote that kind of reaching and fix and follow, developing those real fine and gross motor skills at that earliest stage.
The latest census data shows a Glasgow City Council area had 10.8% of people reporting bad or very bad health. To the north, Keppoch Hill had 16.9% of people reporting bad health and 16.5% in Glenwood South. In the east, North Barlank and Easterhouse are at 17.9%, while in the west of the city, Drumry East had the highest percentage with 19.3%. GP and lifestyle medic Dr. Howie says that Glasgow's deprived areas lack access to affordable nutritious foods.
Food, if you think of these kind of areas and think of the layout of the streets, it's takeaway shop after takeaway shop. The supermarkets are not really in these areas, so they actually call them food deserts, which are areas where access to nutritious, affordable food just isn't there. So you're thinking about corner shops, which are full of ultra-processed foods and don't necessarily provide easy access to good quality food.
In the meantime, these children are taking the baby steps towards a healthier future. Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Well, from internationals back to domestic football, it's non-stop for you sports guys, Ronnie.
Need a holiday, John, already. International football is beginning to ease off, but again, all eyes very much on the Premiership as it returns this weekend.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday event.
Good evening. Rangers legend Ian Durrant says it hasn't been pretty for Philippe Clement this season, but says the Belgian can turn fortunes around at the club and close the gap to Celtic and Aberdeen. Rangers welcome Dundee United to Ibrox on Saturday, with Durrant insisting 3 points is a must. With that and the rest of today's news from the Scottish Premiership, here's Chris Harvey.
It's back down to league business this weekend for Philippe Clement and Rangers. A 1-0 win over Hearts last time out, easing some of the pressure around the club. But many fans still have question marks around the manager. Ahead of the visit of Dundee United this weekend, one man who knows what it takes to win at the club says it's been tough, but Clement can turn it around.
And it's not been pretty, but like everything else, Rome wasn't built in a day. And hopefully they can get back in. As I said, they've got a big game on Saturday to look forward to after the international break, so Dundee United will be priority. Then we can focus on the next games coming up. But just now, with the gap between Aberdeen and Celtic, now they need to make that gap up quite quick. And it's a learning curve for them. Now, it's hard to play here. It's a tough environment, but that'll bring the best out in you. And I'm sure now, he's had a couple of tough weeks here, a tough month, and I'm sure now we want to get back to the football.
Elsewhere, Hearts have partnered with Jamestown Analytics, allowing what they say is exclusive Scottish access to their player database. The company already have agreements in place with Premier League side Brighton, with owner Tony Bloom in talks with Hearts to become a shareholder at the club. At Kilmarnock, despite their defeat to Celtic before the break, assistant Paul Sheeran is confident the Ayrshire side can kick on in the run-up to the festive period.
It goes without saying how tight the league is, and if you can get a couple of wins, you find yourself in the top six, so it's important we do that. But the belief's definitely not gone. We're fully belief in with the same aim as we had last year, is to be in the mix come the split.
And as under pressure Hibs boss David Gray prepares to face Dundee this weekend, Tony Docherty says he's not reading anything into the recent issues at Easter Road.
Hibs are a good team, they've got good players. So I realise, and as I say, when we do our analysis on any team, we look at their strengths and their weaknesses. So I know the type of game we're going to get. I know they'll bring down a large travelling support, so in terms of atmosphere, and it'll be good. It's on television, so that gives an extra motivation for players as well.
Chris Harvey, STV Sport.
Now, after Scotland's late win over Poland secured a relegation playoff in the Nations League, Steve Clarke and his men now know their 4 possible opponents. And here they are. Scotland will face either Austria, Greece, Turkey or Ukraine. The draw is on Friday this week, with the 2-legged playoff taking place in March. If we win, we will remain at the top tier of the Nations League. But that is not all. For the World Cup qualifying campaign next year, Scotland have been confirmed in Pot 3 and will be in a group of 4 countries. This means these are the teams we could face in the dreaded Pot 1, the toughest pot of them all, the likes of England and the European champion Spain in that one. Let's now look as well, though, at Pot 2. We could face a smaller number of teams in this pot, the likes of Hungary, Serbia, Slovakia, all in there as well. So some tough opponents, of course, for Scotland. And then in Pot 4, we have some of the lesser nations in Europe. We could face the likes of Bulgaria, Faroe Islands and Luxembourg as well. The draw for this World Cup qualifying takes place on Friday the 13th of December, with Scotland's matches starting in September of 2025. Now to rugby, and Hugh Jones says they are looking to end their autumn test series in the best possible way by beating one of the best teams in the world, Australia. The Wallabies are in Edinburgh, having emphatically won their first 2 autumn tests against England and Wales. The Scots are looking to record a 4th victory over the Aussies in the last 5 meetings.
We want to put our best game out there, I think. The good thing about these autumn tests is that we're able to sort of build through it. I think, like we said after the South Africa game, that there were a lot of positives from it, and it was like a decent performance in parts. But this is probably where we want to have that great performance, but ultimately come out on the right side of the score.
Physically, they're up there with the top 5 in the world. I think set piece wise, they're really strong. You got a guy like Finn Russell, who's a maestro at the back there. I think it's going to be a close one, and we'll be up for it.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday event.
A huge weekend of rugby, John, and rugby still to come as well, because of course Scotland are playing Australia, but a lovely reunion that all will be revealed quite soon, coming up later on in tonight's.
This is a lovely wee story. Stay with us.
John does the sport as well, folks, not just me.
Even though Ronnie's finished, stay with us. This is worth watching. Ronnie, thank you. Now, you were promised earlier on that Sean would be coming, and he is. He's here to tell us if the cold weather is going to continue.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Very good evening to you. An extremely cold night lies ahead of us. We could be down to -7 or -8 in some spots. You've still got that blue colour around just now, but watch what's going to happen. Bottom left of the screen, greens, yellow colours, scooping our way into the weekend. A huge shift coming this weekend. Parts of Ayrshire and Dumfries and Galloway by the end of Saturday could be up to about 13 or 14 degrees, way above the 3 and 4 degrees we've got out there during the afternoons at the moment. So it's going to turn a lot milder through the weekend, but also turning potentially very wet and very windy as well, with gales. Quiet for the time being. A lot of dry weather, clear spells tonight. As say, a very cold night to come, particularly South Lanarkshire, Dumfries and Galloway, the borders. Here temperatures -7, -8 degrees. A few wintry showers still affecting the Hebrides, Argyll and Bute, and also still icy here as well. Now tomorrow, quite a messy old picture because we've got a little weather front coming down from the north, and that's going to bring in more cloud during the afternoon. It's going to bring in a mixture of rain and sleet, but I expect there will be some hill snow once we get to about 100 metres and above. So there is the possibility of a little bit of slushy snow tomorrow afternoon, settling the likes of East Kilbride, Uplemure, Tarbert getting a little bit of snow as well. So higher levels maybe get some settling snow during tomorrow, but at lower levels mainly just a mixture of rain and sleet. Still very cold, 3 or 4 degrees. Back to sunshine, cold weather on Friday before it turns wet and windy with heavy rain later on Saturday.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Now to that story Ronnie was talking about. They were born in Australia, but now star for Scottish rugby, courtesy of their grandmother from Greenock. And they never thought she'd get a chance to travel back from her adopted home down under and see them run out in dark blue. Until now. Jamie Bothwick has the story.
They don't have a clue what's going to happen to them.
They were told they'd be meeting a fan who'd won a competition. But for Scotland captain Sione Tuipulotu and his younger brother Mosese, the surprise was on them.
Hello. Graham. Hello, my wee man. Hello. Oh.
How'd you get here?
I couldn't believe that, man. Two wee men.
Jacqueline Thompson moved to Australia from her Greenock hometown as a young woman, settling near Melbourne. This weekend, for the first time, she will see both her grandsons play for Scotland.
Not one inkling.
I didn't, truly.
It was actually a massive surprise just because me and my brother didn't know anything about it. They did pretty well to keep it under wraps, but no, it was a pretty emotional one also just because, you know, when I left back home to say goodbye and move over here for rugby, we didn't quite know when, you know, you never quite know when you're going to see your family again.
They owe their Scottish heritage and so much more to their grandma. The most special weekend lies ahead for the Tuipulotu clan. Jamie Borthwick, STV News.
A story to warm you up. Well, back to that developing story in the centre of Glasgow tonight, with parts of the city under lockdown as police and the Royal Navy's bomb squad deal with an ongoing incident at Buchanan bus station. A reporter, Vanessa Taff, is at the scene. You can see what's happening there. And Vanessa, the emergency service is still there.
Yes, still a very heavy emergency services presence here in the heart of Glasgow tonight. Just within the last 15-20 minutes, this command unit has moved in, so that would suggest that they are planning to be here for quite some time tonight as they investigate this ongoing incident. A reminder, 3 men have been arrested after police found offensive weapons, but they have yet to interview those men. Now, of course, major travel disruption across the city tonight. Most of the buses aren't leaving the station, as you'd imagine, as we're all under lockdown, and of course the M8 is also impacted as well. Well, we'll have more on this developing story on the late news and on the STV News website as well tonight.
Vanessa at Buchanan bus station, thank you. And that's all from us here tonight. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Scotland Tonight, of course, at 10:40. Good night.